I came out into the buzzsaw of AIDS. I lived through the 80s and 90s, watched all my friends die.
And by 1985, almost everyone I knew was dead or dying.
Fast forward to 2014, there's this new drug that's available that allows you to take some responsibility for yourself.
Had this pill come along when everybody was still dropping dead, yeah, people would have still lined up.
The consequence of taking Truvada improperly is that you contract a deadly contagious virus.
HIV infection rates among young gay men are appallingly high and rising.
So the problem is people are going to be on PrEP, they're going to stop using condoms. We have something that's 98% effective, it's called a condom.
5 out of 6 gay men are not consistently using condoms.
So it's not working.
There's a syphilis epidemic in the gay male community.
And if this experiment turns out badly, will the people who are promoting it take responsibility for that?
"40 years ago, the Castro Street Fair was founded here in San Francisco. At the time, homosexuals were fighting for basic rights and recognition. A decade later, the HIV/AIDS epidemic was ravaging the community, and there was a new battle to be waged. Well over 500,000 people in the United States alone have died from AIDS. Today, drug cocktails keep many with HIV alive and healthy, but there are still some 50,000 new HIV infections each year, 2/3 of which are among men who have sex with men, and a cure remains elusive."
Do you know what PrEP stands for?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I have to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
So PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's
Yes.
taking a medication every day to help prevent HIV infection.
Why don't too many people know about it?
That's a good question.
In 2012, researchers in a major study estimated that Truvada, a drug used to treat HIV, could be 99% effective at blocking HIV transmission if taken daily. The preventative approach known as pre-exposure prophylaxis. The same year, the US Food and Drug Administration approved Truvada for use as PrEP. But the drug has proved to be a controversial weapon in the fight to eradicate AIDS. David and Matthew are the DJ duo Two Dudes in Love. An attorney and a marketing professional with health insurance, they can afford Truvada's high price, more than $1,000 a month unsubsidized.
At its heart, at its core, it's just about keeping myself safe and making sure that I'm not getting infected and that I am not unknowingly infecting somebody else.
The big criticism is that men will not adhere to taking this pill.
Adherence to a daily pill is as natural as taking my Flintstones vitamins in the morning. It's pretty easy for me because I take pills every day anyway.
I find adherence is really quite easy, and focusing on adherence seems like focusing on the wrong part of the problem.
In the history of AIDS activism.
Michael Weinstein is head of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation in Los Angeles. He warns that promoting Truvada as a preventative measure could lead to a public health disaster.
Part of the problem in this debate has been you can have your own opinion, you can't have your own facts. Scientific data says unequivocally that people who are taking this on a preventative basis will not take it as directed. We have something that's 98% effective. It's called a condom.
For 30 years, we have pushed and pushed for people to use condoms, and it has not gotten us to the end of this epidemic. And when we have a powerful prevention tool like PrEP, why would we possibly walk away from that?
San Francisco City Supervisor Scott Wiener represents the other pole in the Truvada debate. He made headlines in 2014 when he announced he was taking the drug.
Good and smart public health is about meeting people where they are and helping them, as opposed to insisting and demanding that people go to where you want them to be.
The majority of gay men are using condoms.
We know that 5 out of 6 gay men are not consistently using condoms.
So the problem is with PrEP is that people are going to be on PrEP, they're going to stop using condoms, and they're going to think they're protected when they're not, and they're going to become infected.
But to suggest we should not make PrEP available wherever and for whomever it will be effective is the opposite of good public health.
If we see a drastic increase in sexually transmitted diseases because we've attacked the condom culture that's been prevalent in the gay community for all these decades, then that's a big problem.
From the stigma sometimes attached to Truvada, that it promotes riskier behavior and less condom use, arose the derogatory term Truvada whore.
There's that common myth that if you're on PrEP, you're promiscuous or take more sexual risks, but actually we've come to reclaim the term and use it as something positive.
Users like Adam Zabowski are countering the stigma. He makes these Truvada whore t-shirts. Now, when I mention the name Michael Weinstein...
Oh, God.
Oh, yes.
Why, oh God? He has some fears. Do you accept them as rational fears?
No. Realistic sexual behavior just doesn't match up with the idealized sexual behavior that the condoms-only crowd has espoused for the last 3 decades. And the reality is that HIV transmission rates are resurging. They're really high. And the condoms-only mantra is not working. It's not registering with younger populations.
Some of these guys have tried to own the term. They call themselves Truvada whore. Is there any argument in favor of calling these guys Truvada whores in the derogatory sense?
No, I don't think you should call people who take Truvada whores. I've met some whores who are on Truvada, but I also know people who are in long-term serodiscordant relationships who are now free of the anxiety and also freed from condoms.
We talk about syphilis coming back and gonorrhea coming back, and
not coming back. We have syphilis epidemic.
Syphilis, yeah, exactly, an epidemic, and drug-resistant gonorrhea. So PrEP is not a cure for that. And it's not a prevention for that.
And it may make that worse. It may make both of those, it will make both of those epidemics worse.
Dan Savage is a well-known author and sex columnist. He's been cautious as he's waded into the debate over PrEP, well aware of what the consequences of promoting it could be.
I'm a faggot. I know gay men. I get their letters every day. And I know the calculus that we engage in before we make certain sexual choices. And removing the fear of HIV, which is largely not a fear of death anymore, but a fear of stigma and inconvenience, from the equation will cause more guys to indulge their legitimate desire to be intimate in that way, and that is going to make the syphilis epidemic worse, absolutely.
One of the arguments urging caution is that the young generation don't quite know just how bad it was, and we don't want to slip back into any form of recklessness.
Right, but the young generation who already don't know how bad it was are already very spotty with their condom use. And HIV infection rates among young gay men are appallingly high and rising. So this attitude that we should just knock the PrEP out of their hands and deny them access to this drug, and that will somehow inspire them all to start using condoms when they're currently not using condoms, that's just idiotic.
There is a generational divide in the debate over PrEP, and it isn't hard to find in the Castro. While younger men see it as a viable option, it's often those who've lived through the AIDS crisis and watched their friends die who are most wary.
Are you on PrEP?
No.
Why not?
Because it's expensive.
Ah.
It's really expensive.
About $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're in San Francisco. We don't have money for that. It's really horrible that you're doing this in a gay bar. If I could. Don't touch me. We don't need you. Here, get out of our bar.
That's the story that we're telling them is how Matthew and I, we're partners. We're both on PrEP.
It's not 100% effective though.
It's not.
No,
That's
it's
why
not.
anytime
You're still
we hook
risking
up
your life.
I trust him with my life. With everyone else, I use a condom.
There's no trust in the Castro. I can't believe you're doing this. You should be ashamed of yourself as a gay man. You really should be.
I'm not ashamed.
Because you're sending a mixed message out there. And it's dangerous. It's still going to kill people. But there's no cure.
Not yet.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Exactly. I'm 48.
He's 35.
So I remember all my friends dying from AIDS. There's no cure. Your generation thinks there's a cure. You think that the cocktails are a cure. You think that PrEP is no cure. You will still die.
No, I don't think PrEP is a cure.
You will still die.
You will all die.
Yeah. You will still die. You will still die. You will still die.
We know that this drug works. The slogan for my generation, sadly, was silence equals death, and it equaled a lot of death, and I witnessed an awful lot of death. Real misery.
Cleve Jones, a longtime leader in the gay community, discovered he'd contracted HIV at the age of 30. He supports promoting PrEP.
We faced horrendous stigma, but the stigma came from the outside world. The young people today are facing a much different, and in my mind, much more pernicious stigma. And it's a stigma from their own gay brothers saying, how could you be so stupid? And I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of it.
As the debate over Truvada continues, the reality is that right now it's an option only for those who can afford it. Unless the price of PrEP comes down, or it is widely subsidized, many in the United States and more in the developing world won't have the choice to use it at all.
You're seeing a lot of the debate happening in middle-class, gay, largely white communities who have access. And so the next question is, how are we going to give access to everybody else?
And what I'm hearing is no. No cure, no vaccine. But now we know that treatment equals prevention. So let's spread that word far and wide. And let's pressure the wealthy nations to pay for it, and let's pressure the pharmaceutical companies to pay for it, and make it available to everybody, because what other option do we have?
And for the debate to be settled, it's a matter of waiting to find out if access to Truvada really does cut HIV infection rates, or whether more dire predictions prove true.
If I'm wrong, and if AHF is wrong about this, we'll be the first to admit it. And I hope that the people who are promoting this will do the same. I mean, in 2 years we'll know.